Hey everyone, and welcome to Behind the Mask. I'm one of your co-hosts, EJ, and joining me today are my friends Lori.
Hello.
And T.
Hello.
This is episode 7. We're calling it Masks Many Women Wear, and dedicated to all the moms out there since it is Mother's Day, or this episode will be airing on Mother's Day. And so we're going to start out just kind of talking about, since this is kind of themed about Mother's Day, every woman has gone through a situation where they're looked up to, whether they're a sister, an aunt, a cousin, a niece. And I know for me, I had a really good relationship with my mom. And so I always hoped that, one day I could have kids and I could be the mom that, I had. And so, what do you guys, either of you have decent relationships with your moms, or what was your relationship with your moms like?
Go for it, T.
I think like most things in life, it's complicated. My mom was amazing. She was one of those moms that was just a lot of fun, and she still is. But unfortunately, when I was about 7, I was separated from my mom for several years. So that really took a ding on the relationship through no fault of hers or mine.
Right. And then mine complicated that. Yeah, that sounds about right. I would say I had a very complex, lots of ups and downs with my mom over the years. Some good, some not so good. I would say the best part of our relationship is that it ended well. So there we go.
Yeah, I think for me, I was an only child growing up, so I was really close with my mom, and I'm really grateful for the relationship her and I built. I mean, I'm close with my dad too, but I think my mom and I, it was always never, I'm going to go ask my dad. It was always, I'm going to go ask my mom. Can I go over to my friend's house? Oh, I'm going to go ask mom. So it just, and then as I got older, her and I would like to go do things, because my dad worked in a pretty intense job for a while. So he was usually pretty tired on the weekends, and he was a homebody. So he liked to stay home and garden and work in the garage. So mom and I would hop in the car maybe on a weekend and go, just to a park or something for lunch, or just hang out together. And, she got sick the first time she went through the cancer treatment. She pretty much did most of it on her own, except I would take her over to Seattle to do treatments and stuff. And we got close during that. And I remember her not wanting to drive from Seattle back home to Bremerton because it was on the big road, which is I-5 to her. And then I remember getting home, because we ended up having to, because we missed the ferry. Bremerton and Seattle, there's a ferry that connects them. And we'd missed the ferry, and I wasn't willing to sit there for another hour and 25 minutes waiting for the next ferry and then get home an extra hour later. So we just drove home. And I remember hearing her tell my dad, wow, she did really good all by herself. Because my mom was white knuckling it on the way home, because she did not like driving on highways. So we had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. And when she got sick, I know she was kind of upset that I did have to kind of step in and take over, kind of taking care of everything, and kind of never really wished that on me, but I'm grateful for it, and I'm grateful that for the 31 years that I did have with her. And I'm also blessed, and I feel grateful that, after hearing your guys' stories, and I know we've talked personally about other things that have gone on in your lives, and then other people in my life too that I've been as friends that have not had as great of relationship with their moms. It makes me more blessed and grateful to God for allowing me to have such an awesome mom.
Yeah, I think, it's been a while since I've done specific research on moms and daughters and things, but I have often read and often heard that it tends to be, especially in those teenage years, moms and daughters kind of have that often contentious, if you will, relationship, and there's a, just kind of a battle going on, and, moms often trying to exert their control, I guess, and daughters trying to have their own sense of control and become the woman they're going to be. And that kind of sticks with a lot of women until, kind of they're in their mid-20s, mid-30s. And then I think an amazing thing that I've observed happening in a lot of relationships that my girlfriends and other people that I've heard of, as a wedding coordinator, I got to do with lots of mothers and daughters. And I would say the older each woman got, the more forgiving, the more grace-filled each woman became with each other. And it doesn't always work out that way, but I would say that age and life experience and having children, all of that tends to soften, I guess, if you will. If you haven't had the best relationship with your mom, you at
Mm-hmm.
least can understand them better and kind of know why they did some of the things they did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely want to address that, moms don't always have to be the ones that, give birth to you. I just put out a shout out to all the moms who became stepmoms that consider themselves moms, and moms who've adopted children. You're just as equally a mom as anybody else.
Yes.
Or even like grandparents and aunts that have grandmas and aunts who've raised kids because of whatever happened in the family.
It's interesting that you say that, because I would say that my grandmothers were probably the two most influential women in my life, and my younger years, if you will, well, and even on into adulthood.
Yeah.
But I definitely felt that my grandmothers gave me, I don't know, just gave me such wonderful, vivid, loving examples of the kind of woman that I wanted to be, when I grew up, and I'm definitely feel blessed. And it's interesting because I would say it's really shaped how I want to be a grandparent, and I find myself doing and saying and being with my grandchildren. I find myself acting like my grandmothers often, which makes me smile and makes my heart happy. But yeah.
Yeah. T, do you have any grandmas, aunts, cousins that are kind of you look up to or been an impact in your life, in your kind
Oh,
of extended family?
most certainly, most certainly. When my mom was not able to be there for me, my aunt, my dad's sister, was definitely a huge factor in my life. And when I thought of who I wanted to grow up and be like, I wanted to be like my mom, and I wanted to be like my Aunt Evie. They're just amazing women and who have gone through a lot. And in watching them, I knew that it was possible to overcome adversity. And I also, my grandmother on my dad's side came over here from Norway right after World War II. And at the end of her life, she told many of the stories that occurred while she was over there. And so there's this sort of connection to your history through that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, I think for me, growing up, my parents had been married about a year, and then my mom's mom moved in with them just to to downsize. And she lived with my parents until I was 14. So roughly 18 to 20 years. So I grew up with a grandmother in my house, through my young, kid life, and then kind of the early teens, which was a blessing, and also it caused some tension because my grandmother was born in 1924 and was raised in a different time than I was being raised in, and
She had
I
a few different ideas, did she?
she did, and I appreciate now I appreciate some of the things she tried to teach me. Like, she tried to teach me how to crochet, she tried to teach me how to sew, and I learned a little bit from her in that regard. Like, I learned some of the crafts that she did. But she grew up in a time where women were taught home ec and how to cook and how to clean and how to, sew and all that stuff as to be a housewife. And I wanted nothing to do with any of that. And so it was the tension in our house was like, I liked math and science, and I was kind of on my dad's side with that. And then my grandmother was always kind of trying to lean me towards English and history. And I could not, to this day, Lori, you know this, I hate history. I hate English, but yet my dream is to be a published author. So I enjoy creative writing, but it's the structured writing that I really have an issue with. So that grandmother and I, and she passed away, God, this year will be 20 years ago.
Wow.
And she had moved in with her son. So my mom had a brother as well. And so his wife, she'd moved in the last few years of her life in with them. And so we kind of got distant, but we were still really close. And to this day, like, I lost her to cancer. So I've lost quite a few family members to cancer, and just, still sucks. It still hurts. I have a lot of great memories with her. And then my dad's from Minnesota. So we would go back every other summer to visit her, because she lived back there along with most of my dad's extended family, his siblings and stuff. He used to have some around the country too, but most of them kind of stayed in Minnesota area. So I don't have as close a relationship as I'd like to have with my aunts and my cousins. But I'm grateful that I still can keep in touch with them now. And, my grandma on my dad's side, she was a piano teacher. So she enjoyed that I got to play my clarinet for her one year. That was really a cool memory. She's like, she wanted me to learn the piano, but she was just glad that I picked up music at all. So she was really excited to get to hear me play clarinet. So I have a lot of great memories with her. She, I believe, was Swedish, and my dad's dad was Danish, so I've kind of got that, Scandinavian roots. Not really specific, but definitely grew up with that. And my dad grew up on a farm in Minnesota, so we've got a lot of great stories, a lot of memories with that, and learned a lot. So I'm glad for that, and I hope, it's recently some of my cousins and I have been connecting a little more, and we're all learning about different things that we didn't know about our family from back in the day, and just, hey, did you know about this? And I'm like, no, I didn't know about that. Well, I'll send you pictures. And so I'll get like this envelope of pictures in the mail of all these things. And
yeah, I was always I loved because my dad's family was also from Minnesota, and you and I've talked about that before. We have a lot of these very similar stories,
Yep.
and definitely a farm family.
Right.
My dad's family is Dutch, and
Yeah.
so again, that kind of Scandinavian. But so there was, lots of trips to Minnesota, and probably, I was a city girl going out to farmland. Most of the time I was a fish out of water. I didn't really know what to do with myself,
Yeah.
I did learn a lot and grow a lot, and some of my aunts were just amazing. And I definitely, my dad's family is a very large family. He is one of 9.
Yeah.
So there were lots of aunts and uncles and cousins, and all of that. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I get that one, and the way, because my dad's the youngest boy in his family, and he's in a family of 7. So I'm younger than most of my cousins, and I'm older than all of their kids. So I'm like right smack dab in the middle.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's been interesting, but I love that I am able to use Facebook now to keep in touch and keep up with them. And I've had cousins that have had kids recently and stuff, so it's just really neat to see them growing up. And my dad, his living siblings that are still around, have visited a few times in the last couple of years. Granted, with COVID, they couldn't come last year or this year. So I'm glad I'm being able to build up a relationship, because my grandmother, my dad's mom, passed away in 98, and that was the last time we went back to Minnesota. So it's been like over 20 years since I've been back there, so I've really kind of lost that. So when Facebook and stuff became a thing and all the family started getting it, it's nice to kind of keep in touch with everybody now and start rebuilding that relationship again.
Sounds like fun.
So we've talked about moms, we've talked about people like grandmothers, aunts, cousins, kind of in our immediate family, but are there other people in your life, spiritual moms, friends, moms that have you kind of look up to, or just women that you kind of see as a spiritual sister or mom?
What are your thoughts, T?
Unfortunately, that's not an area I have much on that. I think the closest I had to a spiritual mom would have been my Aunt Evie. She was very devout Christian. And matter of fact, I kind of have a funny story about that. Before she passed away, she had made a trip to Montana and was flying back. Now, my aunt had a lot of fears about anything that moved. So, cars and airplanes. And normally she had to be somewhat medicated, if not completely medicated,
Okay.
to get into a vehicle or on a plane. So, she was flying
Okay.
back, and my cousin was there to pick her up. And she says that everybody who was disembarking were just in tears because apparently there had been an incident during the flight that involved very, very bad turbulence.
Oh my.
And so my cousin was just petrified. She was certain they were going to have to wheel my aunt off the plane because she was going to be a drooling mess from the anxiety of that flight. And she says, here comes her mom just bebopping off the plane and just super excited. And my cousin's like, Mom, are you okay? She's like, I almost got to meet Jesus today. She was
Oh
excited.
wow.
She was just on cloud nine. She thought
Yeah.
she was for sure she was going to meet Jesus. So
Oh my goodness. That is just so
That's
precious.
funny. Yeah. T, do you have any people in your life like I wouldn't, I mean, maybe not spiritual moms, but just people you consider like a second mom?
no.
No.
Yeah.
No.
No,
Not. I mean,
definitely.
not a lot of people. I mean, some people do. I'm just curious.
I think because of the things that went on throughout my childhood and young adult, I just never found that I connected with folks, women who were older than me in that way that I would look at as a mother figure. I might have people in my life that I kind of consider sisters, but not mother figures. I think I ended up just becoming really independent,
Okay.
not looking at it like that. So
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't think I really felt like I had, mom figures in my life until later. And I had, and I still have, one of the most amazing mom mentor figures in my life, one of my best friend's moms. And, she really has done so many things, and she's like a grandmother to my sons, and she which is good, because I don't think outside of their father's mother, I don't think the boys felt like they had active grandparents in their lives, because we had moved away from their paternal grandparents in Colorado, and so it was wonderful to have somebody like that. I mean, she did things like, and she's the most amazing woman too, because she's that woman. What's that song? I'm going to bring home the bacon, and I'm going to fry it up in a pan, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and this woman is like that. I mean, and she does everything from know how to make Devonshire clotted cream, and then she can take Kevin aside and show him how to put up drywall and set up her own electrical. And you're like, and then she can sew a dress, and she can, and I'm like, this woman is not even real. She is like, just doesn't even seem, it's just so amazing. I've never quite met anyone like her. And I can't imagine my life without her. And she definitely gave me those good vibes, and I thought, that's how I want to be. That's how I want to be with my kids, my grandkids, and definitely gave me what I felt like was an amazing model, and definitely faith-filled. And and I definitely had some kind of moms in the faith. um it's it's hard because I have some amazing women of faith, but I feel like if I mention one and then I don't mention the other three, then, or however many, then I'm
Right.
excluding someone. But I can probably think of about 5 or 6 women off the top of my head within my kingdom family, as I call them, who have just made such an amazing impact in my life. And I can't imagine that I would even be the person that I am today without them. So my hat's off to all of them.
Yeah.
And they really always kind of restored my faith and hope in I guess what I had envisioned when I was young about what a mom could be, would be, and that kind of thing. And they definitely have shown me in many ways that with faith, it's not easy, but that you could be successful and happy and content within your life. So, yeah.
Yeah, like you, Lori, there's a lot of, growing up, I had 3 people really off the top of my head, moms of friends that became like second moms to me. To this day, I still keep in touch with them as best I can. They were friends with my mom. And the neighborhood I grew up in, we lived in for 27 of the 28 years. So
Wow.
we had a lot of people, like we talked about the moving around stuff. Like, I didn't do that. I was born in the same town that I grew up in.
Yeah.
And when I was 3, we moved into this house, and I moved out of the house when I was 31. So
That's right. I think I had to drag you out, kicking and screaming.
practically, yeah. So those 3 growing up were, and I didn't grow up in a faith-based family or anything like that, but just these 3 people were like, they were there, like they were there when we needed them, and I'm grateful for them. Still keep in touch as best I can with them. And then I have, a ton of friends who are moms now themselves, who I kind of look up to in the, as a mom, but as a sister and an aunt. I'm auntie to quite a few of my friends' kids, and again, we have a large kingdom family, and I have a lot of amazing spiritual women in my life that I'm really grateful to have, and they know who they are, and I do my best to make sure they know it, that I am grateful for them in my lives as often as I can. So yeah, I'm not going to say names because I don't want anybody to not hear their name and be upset. So I'm just not going to say any of them. But yeah, so I'm grateful for that. And I think, people come into our lives in different seasons. And we have those times where, this season you need somebody that's this, and that person comes into your life, and some stay and hang out, and then others maybe stick around for a little while and, move on, and that's okay.
Yes, very ecclesiastical.
Yeah. So we've talked family, we've talked moms, we've talked spiritual people in our lives, friends, moms, that kind of stuff. So what about, are there public figures or celebrity women that you guys look up to? Maybe not even a mom, but just an actor, actress, author, something, that you say, I want to emulate something they're doing. Or
Oh my goodness. I did research.
Oh,
and
God.
and I have all of these thoughts running through my head. it's interesting. I made a post about it today on social media. I was like, wow, I I don't think we celebrate women enough. And I think that I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's just my view, but I feel like often the many things that women do, they're just assumed we're supposed to do those things, or that it's just I don't know, I just feel like it's almost overlooked. I don't know, am I wrong?
I guess it depends on what genre you're talking about. Like if you're talking, a specific, we don't celebrate women in certain areas, but we try to.
I mean, okay, yes, we have Mother's Day, which we're celebrating, and we I was surprised when I was reading up on all of these different women, from Margaret Thatcher to Marie Curie, Eleanor Roosevelt, Rosa Parks, Ellen and Oprah, Mother Teresa, I mean, all of these. But I was really surprised about that. I didn't know half of what they did.
Yeah.
I think I maybe knew a quarter of what all of these women accomplished in their lives. I've always been you know, um, anyone who knows me, I'm a huge sports fan. And outside of the accomplishments that many women athletes, have done, and just like men, racial barriers, gender barriers, all of these different things where, yes, they did all of those things. But I was amazed at how many women started their own foundations, started, give back to their communities, share the wealth, J.K. Rowling, um, she was quoted as having said, "You have a moral responsibility when you've been given far more than you need to do wise things with it and give it intelligently." And I think I was surprised because she was far from the only woman who felt that way. And then there was, just the idea that when women can exercise political leadership, there are gains for the whole world society when there are women in politics. And so I was just really, really encouraged. So going back to sports, I really have always admired Serena and Venus Williams. And they do so much for education, big brothers and sisters, but those in poverty, and not that they're not, that's outside of, the fact that what Serena is one of the oldest still competing women mom athletes, so now not only is she competing at the top of her game athletically, she's being a mom and having children of her own and still doing all of these things. I mean, that kind of stuff impresses me. One of my favorite actresses is Meryl Streep. I'm not going to say we agree on everything politically or morally or anything like that, but beyond her amazing talent, I think that she does amazing things for like some of those smaller organizations like Meals on Wheels and coalitions for the homeless and colleges. She dedicates at a minimum $1 million a year to making sure that those less fortunate than herself are taken care of, if you will. So I just think Angelina Jolie, and she's done so much financially, but I didn't realize that not only has she been working with, I think it's UNICEF, but she's actually done 6 field missions.
Mm-hmm.
Like actually goes there
Yeah.
and does what, the everybody else does. She's
Mm-hmm.
out there, in these foreign countries and all over Africa and everywhere else, and then of course they're adopting children and, there's
Well, some
so
of the
many
kids that she
celebrities that
adopted
do
were
that.
from countries that she did do those service missions at.
Right. Yes. Yes. And she did a lot with sex trafficking and I know, gosh, there's just so many of them, and so I think that for me, today's topic of choice was just very, very eye opening and really just caused me to have more and more respect for some of the amazing women in this world. So
Amen. Yeah, I have a lot shorter list, but there are some that I definitely, look up to. It's hard to narrow down the specific amount because, as you're going through and you watch a movie, you're like, oh, I like that actress, or I like that host on that show, and Ellen DeGeneres is a great host. She's hilarious,
she's great.
and plus she's an activist. She's in her own right with the LGBTQIA plus community. I know she also is working with something in South America, and then just I respect any actor or actress who goes to a foreign country and does a service project or a mission and doesn't do it for the recognition of doing it.
Right.
I think those are people we need to look up to more. I also think like some people, Sally Ride.
Oh yeah.
She's an astronaut, astrophysicist, and in 1983, which was the year I was born, she was the first American woman in space, and I think that is freaking awesome.
That's so awesome.
She was the first American woman. She was the third overall. So like there were a few other women in, I believe, Russia had been
a couple of Russian women.
Yeah. So she was the third officially, but first American woman. So I think that's a really awesome title and, honor to have.
Yeah.
And then also like Princess Diana.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah. She's beautiful. Set the stage for a lot of things.
She really did.
Marie Curie.
I know.
Scientist.
Extraordinaire.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the things she discovered.
Yes.
And then more as kind of a more personal note, as an author, I really look up to Debbie Maycomber. She's a romance author. She's based out of Port Orchard, Washington, and created a series called, Cedar Cove, which is based on Port Orchard. She writes, modern day stuff. She's kind of the writer that I want to emulate, not like copy her work, but I definitely like want to kind of keep in that genre. And she doesn't often write a lot of, I don't want to say like angsty. She doesn't write that like she writes really good stories, but they don't have a lot of like major drama in them. Like they come up with sensible drama, and there's often not like sex scenes and a lot of cussing. Some, depending on the story and depending on the characters, there may need to be some, but it's often a pretty reasonably clean and semi-wholesome writing. And I kind of want to emulate that because I don't feel like a story needs to have sex in it to sell,
I
so agree. So that's something like I don't write that, and so I like to read authors that also feel that kind of same way. But yeah, so there's just a few off the top of my head that I think, and plus I'm forgetting the names now, but the Ladies of Hidden Figures, the movie, but it's also based on the women of the NASA.
Yeah. Right.
Again, I'm a science and math geek, so like all that kind of like the powerful women in those
Oh my
fields.
goodness gracious! I know. I was thinking of. I mean, you've got Jane Goodall, and you've got.
Yeah.
I wish I would have wrote her name down, but there was this woman who I was like, she did what? Really? That it was a woman who came up with the whole concept of data processing and all this stuff. I was like, are you kidding me? Wow.
Yeah.
I just, like I said, I was just shocked with how much I guess I just didn't know
Right.
that women are doing, and they're
Yeah.
succeeding and helping their communities, and
Yeah.
it warms my heart. So
Yeah. And then another person I was thinking of was like for, I grew up watching cooking shows, and to this day, like I enjoy them. And I know Lori hated it when I wanted to have the Food Network on at the house.
yeah.
And so like, just the historical people of like Julia Child was kind of one of the first people out
She's
there,
a cool lady.
And then like I grew up, or I wouldn't say I was grew up, but we definitely watched a lot of Food Network in our house. And my mom and I, when she was sick, even we would sit and watch the Food Network, and we both loved the Pioneer Woman.
Oh yes, you talk about her a lot.
Ree Drummond. I've learned a lot from her. I mean, I've learned a lot from watching cooking shows, and it's funny because I remember my mom's like, "Well, we don't need to get Ree's, cookbooks. What is the Pioneer Woman is Ree Drummond." And I told my mom, I was like, "No, we're gonna get, we should get some." And so the Christmas before she passed away, I remember we bought the first couple, and she was sitting there on Christmas Day flipping through them, and she goes, "Wow, these are like amazing cookbooks." She's like, "I'm gonna get rid of all my other ones and keep these." And what Ree does is she breaks down each step and puts a picture of each step along the way. So like these thick, books, hardback books, have all these amazing recipes with like step-by-step guides. And she cooks simple stuff. Like she doesn't
That would be
cook
what I
this.
need.
Yeah. Yeah. She doesn't cook like these overly like dramatic, dishes. And because she lives on a farm that's like an hour away from the closest town, and that's just a little like one horse town, it's a really tiny town. So she's got to, go stock up on stuff and then come home, and she's got to maybe not go shopping for a month. So we've learned a lot, and we just tried, I try to emulate some of that. So she's another one that I do try to like pick up some stuff from.
Any thoughts, T?
No.
You're like, no.
It is the strangest thing. I'm sitting here listening to you guys talk about these women, and most of them I know of, and I admire, and they've done great things. But to sit here and think about women that I feel I have been impacted by, especially celebrity wise, I do have some comments about women that I admire, typically not in the field of celebrity.
Well, good. Let's hear about them.
Yeah, share away.
So, the women I want to talk about and that I want to honor are the women who are my clients. I work for an agency that serves victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, and these are some of the bravest women I have ever met. And they often are mothers. More often than not, they are mothers, and that they continue to be that to their children through the hardest times of their lives often. So that's when I think of who I admire, that's what keeps popping up in my head is these moms persevering despite horrible, horrible acts done to them in a domestic violence situation by their spouse or in a sexual assault during the assault, but the system as well.
Yeah.
In order for them to seek justice or restorative justice in any sense, oftentimes they are re-victimized. And so they still get up. They'll still keep moving forward, and they still keep trying. So those are the moms that I admire.
You're going to make me cry.
Amen. But so true.
And I strongly agree with you. I was thinking also of, when you said that, T, there were some special, women teachers within my life,
Yeah.
who I thought, wow, they do what they do really just out of the goodness of their heart, the good ones, and and they're so exceptional with molding and directing and impacting the lives of their students, and I can think of just, a handful of those beautiful women who I know sacrificed to be the kind of teachers that they were. And
Right.
and even on into, college. I know T, you and I have had a couple of conversations about some impactful professors, who we just felt like, were just so giving, so loving, so good at teaching and sharing a message, that was impactful. And so, yeah, I definitely don't want to only honor celebrities.
Right.
I just was amazed at all of the accomplishments that I read today. And
Right.
not all of those women that I mentioned were necessarily celebrities. I think of, Eleanor Roosevelt, or what's her name that started the Red Cross?
Oh yeah.
Is it Butler?
I don't
Um,
remember.
I can't remember her name now. Um, Amelia Earhart.
Mhm.
All of these people who were just, and yes, I mean, I was reading about Harriet Tubman, and I was reading about Sojourner Truth, and
Mhm.
some amazing, amazing women who did things at the time, definitely not for notoriety,
Right.
I mean, um, definitely not for, wasn't it J.K. Rowling who wasn't she one of the one that was like practically homeless?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
started her story on napkins.
Yeah.
Right,
In a cafe. Yeah.
right. I
She
mean,
was a single mom.
so yeah, I mean, she's a celebrity now, but I think of her and I
Mhm.
think, oh my goodness, um, was it Jewel? Jewel was living out of her car, and got picked up, right? And noticed, I think that what amazes me about so many of these stories that we're reading, Mother Teresa, my goodness, that woman definitely didn't, she wasn't trying to be, she was definitely not, she would never have been okay with being, what did they made her a saint or whatever? Yeah, she would have never been okay with that. She's a very humble, beautiful soul who literally just wanted, she had horrible feet issues, and like at the end of the day, her feet would be bleeding because she was on them so much, and she was constantly serving people. And I think that's just, I don't know, I don't know that I've served till I bled. I've I definitely have served. I just don't know if I've served to that extent,
Right.
but definitely, T, what you said was, I agree. There are so many unsung heroes, and there
Mhm.
are so many moms and women who, gosh, have really been through the ringer, through some horrific things. And not only are they standing, but they're thriving, and they're raising children, and they're being mentors of their own. And that is a worthy thing that I think is very important. Yeah, we need to honor that. Yes,
Amen.
amen to that. Well, ladies, I will admit this was better than I thought, because I was like, no, I've avoided Mother's Day for a long. I mean, outside of a wonderful Mother's Day with my own sons, um, I definitely feel blessed. Um, knowing my children love me and my grandchildren, love me. But the whole concept of moms has just never been. I just, yeah, it's never been a really. Let's go talk about that subject. I've just avoided it for many, many, many a year. So
I'm surprised I'm the one that brought it up, and I'm the one that's still, missing my mom. And it's been
yes.
6 years.
Well, I'm grateful that my mom is still alive, and that even though our relationship doesn't look like your typical mother-daughter relationship, she is still my mom, and she did so much. When I came back into her life, it was at a time I needed her most, and she was a perfect mom for a weird teenager, and who had been sheltered on the one hand and too aware of other things on the other hand. And
Yeah.
she rolled with it and had a great sense of humor, and showed me that I didn't have to be so scared. So,
Hmm.
so even though our relationship was impacted, we can still pick up the phone and talk to each other once a year, twice a year, once every 2 years. Yeah, and still know that there's a true love there. And so I'm very appreciative of that. And I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful that on New Year's Eve, she drunk called me and spent New Year's Eve with me and my sister. My sister lives with her, and they were, we spent hours on the phone while they were drinking to the New Year's. So, it was great fun.
Right.
But
I love it. I love it.
I definitely I want to honor my mom in that, and that even though I don't have a lot to say about the whole mom thing in general, like having mother figures, I don't want to in any way take away from what my mom sacrificed, despite with everything,
Yeah.
to do her
Yeah.
best for
Mhm.
us. Um,
It's
I
interesting that you
also
say that. Oh no, go ahead.
no go you go ahead and
Well,
I'll
no, I
follow
was
up.
just thinking it's interesting you say that, because I have said, I know to you and to some those close to me, probably the best in my mind years with my mother were those last 3, because we definitely were able. I actually got to call my mom and ask for advice, and we exchanged emails and calls, and it was, I feel so blessed to have those 3 years to look back on. And it allows me to have something good, to hang on to, because I didn't feel like my mom and I were very close, growing
Mhm.
up, and she wasn't healthy and I wasn't healthy, and there was just a lot to that relationship that was tenuous at best. And so I was so grateful for those last 3 years, where
Yeah.
we were both able to forgive and love and and give to one another. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful for that time.
Amen. Yeah. I learned a lot from my mom. And that's even to this day, there's times where I want to pick up the phone and call her,
Hmm.
because there's those moments where you just kind of forget for a second.
Hmm.
which is weird, but
Or where you
especially,
just wish that they were there.
yeah, there's that too. But yeah, I just, my mom she handled so much stuff, corralling me, and, her and I, we butted heads a lot, you know, um, as moms and daughters do. But I think at the end of the day, we realize we love each other. We're mom and daughter, and that's going to be stronger than any argument, we could, have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
T, you had another thought that you were going to share.
Yes, there are 3 other specific mothers that I admire, and that's my own daughters.
Ha ha ha.
Ah.
Yes.
So I watch them being moms through their each their own types of hardships, and my oldest daughter, she lost her first baby when she was 8 months pregnant, and she was so strong through that, even when she felt weak. Just watching her heal from that, and have 2 more kids, and she's just a phenomenal mom with them. And even though her and the dad aren't together anymore, they are amazing co-parents and do whatever they need to do to take care of those kids. My middle daughter, she has 5. I don't think she figured out what caused that. But her oldest 2 daughters were taken from her, and I won't go into details about that because I don't want to cause any complications there. But she only gets to see them 2 times a year for a total of 3 weeks, and she does whatever she has to do to make that happen, and still be the mom to her other 3 children. So she's doing a phenomenal job there. My youngest daughter, with her oldest son, his dad died a year ago in a tragic accident, and so she's had to step into that role, and she's been graceful about it, and she maintains a relationship with his family so that they can stay in a relationship with the grandson, my grandson. And then she just on the 21st had another baby and had complications going into that, and she never wavered, she never faltered. She was just such a trooper through both her pregnancies and the delivery part was. And so watching them raise these children, and then in this complicated world we're living in,
Oh, I know. Yeah.
I admire my daughter as much.
Yes. Yes. I would agree with that. I really admire. I've been, I feel like, really working on my relationship with my daughter-in-law. And, it's just been so amazing to see, the choices that she's making and the things that she's doing and the way that she loves her stepson and her daughter. And I pray every day that we have just a much better relationship than I had with my mother-in-laws. I didn't feel like my relationships with my mother-in-laws was ever that great. And so I just pray and hope that mine can be different with my daughter-in-law. And I think that it is, but never one to assume. But I do feel like, my daughter-in-law and I both work on that. And it helps that we both desire for that. You know what I mean? Even if we don't always know how to accomplish it, the heart is there for both of us. And so I think that makes it, all the better. And yes, I definitely admire her as a mother.
I have to say let's make a nod out to mother-in-laws.
Oh, goodness gracious, yes.
because that is a thing too. I am a
They
mother-in-law.
really do get
Yeah.
the short end of the stick sometimes, I'm telling you.
And I have to
Yeah.
say that I got blessed with both my mother-in-laws. In my first marriage, she's still in my life. Of course, she's my kids' grandma, but I really do adore her, and I don't tell her that enough. And my most recent mother-in-law, who passed away a year ago, uh, on the 12th, it'll be a year. And there were missed opportunities there, but she was also a pretty amazing woman herself. So definitely a shout out to them.
Yes, definitely.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't say that there was much effort on everybody's part. I think that there was just a lot of things that got in the way of those relationships maybe being better than they were. So yes.
I think as females, our mother-in-laws, we have two kinds. We have the kind that's like, oh, please don't take my son away from me. And then we have the kind of like, oh my goodness, please take him.
Right.
Mm.
Oh, I can't even touch that. Yeah, no.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um,
That was great. That was great. I love it.
so I think we'll end on
Yes.
for anybody who knows me may know that I'm a New Kids on the Block fan, and I'm mostly a fan. I mean, I love all the new kids, but Donnie is my favorite. His Donnie Wahlberg, whose brother is Mark Wahlberg.
Oh yeah.
They recently, several years ago, were doing a series called Wahlburgers, and it heavily featured their mom, Alma, who just passed away. And on the show, she often said, "Call your mother." So for all of you out there who have a mom or someone like a mom, happy Mother's Day, and don't forget to call your mother.
That's a great way to end. I love it. I love it.
This episode is available on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as BehindTheMaskPC, and will soon be on YouTube. If you don't use social media, you can email us at BehindTheMaskPC@gmail.com. Feel free to review us on Anchor, leave feedback on the platform you listen to us on, or message us through our social media or email, because we'd love to hear what you think. If there's a topic you'd like to hear us talk about, feel free to message us and we'll see about making it happen. You can find EJ on Twitter and Instagram as EJ8302 and T at her YouTube channel, T's Life Lessons. If you'd like to help keep these episodes coming, you can monetarily support us by visiting anchor.fm/BehindTheMaskPC/support. And on behalf of Lori T and myself, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. And call your mother. That was my very, very bad Boston accent. I apologize to anybody.
It was great. Oh, you guys are awesome. I love you.